Welcome back, welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Flowers, aka Flo, aka Call Me What You Want, just don't call me lazy. And of course, I am joined by,
Y'all know who it is. Metro Meta, he who shall not be named.
and we are here to discuss the first season of Sloth Baby Productions presents Marvel Studios Miss Marvel. Now, I will say originally we started off by doing it we started doing reviews episodically, but in the middle of the reviews, I had to go across the country to a wedding. Meta was working, so we just decided, you know what, we are going to give you guys a jam-packed review of just the entire season of Miss Marvel. And before we really dive in, let's just talk about some of the news after the finale. This is from Comic Book and by Adam Barnhart. It says Miss Marvel ends as Marvel's highest rated project. The first season of Miss Marvel has ended, and the Disney Plus series is the best rated project Marvel Studios has ever released. Using scores from Rotten Tomatoes Tomato Meter as a baseline, the series has settled in at a 98% certified fresh rating. That beats Black Panther's previous high of 96% certified fresh. Um, and I think what that shows is that when representation is done correctly, people will respect it, and not only respect it, they'll really enjoy the content that's made.
Definitely. I really enjoyed this season. I really enjoyed this series. I think it was a really nice breath of fresh air, especially coming off of like the darkness of Moon Knight and like the craziness of Thor: Love and Thunder. It really was a fun uh, thing to have Miss Marvel and to have all these characters come to life and come to the screen, especially with like new blood with the character that people don't know as much.
Yeah, and also it just shows that like it was true representation. Like we saw the wedding, we saw them in Pakistan, we saw them in a predominantly brown and black neighborhood, and it's just like when you and goes to what Marvel has always been. It's always Marvel has always stood their baseline as the heroes outside of your window, and that's what they and that is and what this series truly does. It says, hey, Miss Marvel could be anyone you know. As soon as you put on the mask, it could be you. It could be you, and we see her evolution from a shy, like of course with all heroes, we see the evolution from a shy young woman to a confident lady who is not only confident in her powers, but she gains confidence in herself.
Yeah, and I enjoyed. I think my favorite aspect of the show has been just the aesthetic of the show. We saw that in that first episode when she's dreaming up these different Captain Marvels and there's graffiti around it, and like it stayed there the whole time from like when they were making their text come alive in the world. That last episode when we see Kamala like racing across Jersey City, jumping off of buildings and like running. I was like, we're used to like Spider-Man like swing through the city. I was like, this is cool. This is like a different level of like traversal. It was really amazing. So shout outs to the team for just making this show have such an amazing aesthetic.
Right, and even still, like it ended with that iconic Miss Marvel image that's on the comics where she's sitting on the street lamp, and I was waiting for them to put that in the actual show just because that's such an iconic picture because it's like, hey, she's your neighborhood friendly Miss Marvel, and just seeing that, it's like, okay, I can relate to him or that young person of color can relate to being Miss Marvel.
Yeah, definitely. It was just all around amazing.
Okay, next up, this is before we continue. This is a spoiler review. So this is from Empire Online. Actually, we're going to wait. I just use the word redacted. Miss Marvel's creators originally wanted her to be a redacted in the comics too exclusive. If you're a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan and you haven't caught the final episode of Miss Marvel yet, you'll want to start whatever. Because those who've already seen it or very like get spoiled it online will know its final scenes contain the use of a word that's going to be hugely significant for the MCU's future. It's a word that carries significant meaning in this world, and something fans have long waited to come into play as part of Marvel Studios' interconnected set of characters and stories. In fact, it is such a big deal that we're not going to write it into the beware. Okay, so we both know what the word is. We don't actually have to say it. And as a fan who has been reading comics for, I won't say I'm an avid reader. I'll say I've been reading comics probably consistently for about 10 years. But of course, I have Marvel Unlimited, I have Comixology Unlimited, and of the creators of Kamala Khan in the comic book series, they originally wanted her to be this redacted, but because of the powers that be, such as like Ike Perlmutter, who was the head of Disney and who didn't necessarily like the vision of redacteds because they were full of people of color and people of color shining and doing their thing. He said, "Nah, make her inhuman because that fits what I want to have the vision of the MCU to be, and that not only clash with what the writers wanted, it also clashed with what Kevin Feige wanted to do at the time. And if you haven't, remember we still have to watch the Inhuman series and review that. But because that series was so terrible, they trashed the Inhumans. Like it was so bad, they just canceled the Inhumans. We haven't really heard anything about them since. And so with that, we have her being a redacted. I was speaking with one of my friends who always texts me on Wednesdays or Thursdays, like, "Hey, did you watch the latest?" And when he texted me, he said, "Hey, watch this as soon as possible because it's going to shift the culture of the MCU moving forward." And I said, "Okay, I don't know what it could be." So I watched it and I said, he may be right here. I was just more surprised that they would have done it this soon. Like it feels like that's a big joker to have, and for them to start it already, it doesn't concern me. But it's like, okay, we'll see where this goes.
Definitely interesting because her being this does have implications for like the entirety of Marvel, and I wonder if they are going to have to find a way to let people know about this because there's definitely going to have to need to be more awareness, especially if people don't go and see Miss Marvel.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll just say, real talk. While we let Meta get his camera straight, I'll just say it's very not only refreshing, but it kind of just like says, okay, hopefully this like steamrolls what we're going to do moving forward. Just moving forward, and we'll see. We're going to see the redacteds and more of them, and hopefully we'll get my favorite redacteds coming soon. So, yeah, we're still waiting for Meta to get his camera on. So I'll just kick it off with the first, with just my initial reactions after that final episode, or just the entire season. So, as I was watching it, I wasn't a big Kamala Khan fan, but her story always intrigued me as a comic book reader. Like I didn't really care for the Inhumans. I didn't care for I didn't really care for all of that. But her story is just like her like journey as like from champions to young Avenger to Avenger, and it's always been something for me that I always kept my eye on. And so now with her series, after the first two episodes, I was like, okay, I'm kind of in. I like the story. The CGI isn't that good. But okay, I'm rolling. And then episode 3, I was like, okay, I'm still here. I'm still here. Episode 4, I was like, all right, I see this. Episode 5, when they went back to when they went to Pakistan, I'm like, okay, this is a very interesting twist on an origin story because it's not only showing her the origin of, it's not just showing her the origin, but the importance of being connected to your roots, which a lot of people in the United States sometimes struggle with. Like just in general, like there's a lot of people who can't go back 4 and 5 generations. So for her to be able to take that journey to her homeland, that's something a lot of people a lot of people could connect to. Just like, oh, hey, that's something that I always want to do, or that's like, hey, I remember doing a passage like this to adulthood.
Yeah, I like Miss Marvel. As I said, she's my favorite superhero. She was definitely the person that got me into comics. So having a series on her has always been a dream for me. I think from the start, I was like feeling the vibes. I really liked the character. I really liked the suit, and I really, for me, I it was amazing and interesting because it seemed like they were rushing her story. Like at first, I felt like we're getting a lot of like like some of her storylines in the comics really quickly. Like right off the bat, we're introducing, bam, here's the Cameron story. Bam, Red Dagger's here, and I'm like, dang, that's 3 storylines, and we're not even halfway through the show.
Right.
And even then, bam again, Bruno's leaving, and they changed it from. Now, Marcus, I don't know if you know this. In the comics, Bruno had to leave after the events of Civil War when him and Kamala are having a fight. And he actually, when he left, he didn't go to Caltech. He went to Wakanda. And with Wakanda Forever coming up, I definitely felt like they had a chance to like maybe make him make a cameo, but they didn't feel like it was needed or necessary. So it's not a big change, but like they're getting to a lot of her important storylines very quickly without actually like getting a chance for us to get to know them. Like I was at the end of the show, I was like, dang, Cameron's going, but like, where is he going? Why do we really care? But like, for the at the end of the day, when you get towards the end, I definitely feel like they were setting up a really, really strong second season and a really strong presence in the MCU in general, especially with her ties to like Captain Marvel and how she's going to just live up to her legacy.
Oh, we're
And
gonna talk about Captain Marvel in a second. We're gonna talk about Captain Marvel. But I also think this was the first MCU Disney Plus film where I wasn't like, okay, what's the next thing after this? Like, of course, with like WandaVision, it was like, okay, what's this setting up? With Captain Winter Soldier, it was like, okay, what's this setting up? With Loki, it was like, okay, what's this setting up? And now with What If, it's like, okay, even though these are what ifs, like, what is this going to set up in the future, or what could be a possibility in the future? And now it's like, and even and with Hawkeye, it was like, okay, what is this setting up to? With Miss Marvel, this was probably the first Disney Plus film I will say that I wasn't like, okay, what is this setting up for? And I think because of that, I just enjoyed the show much more because I wasn't like, okay, what is this leading to, or where's the next plot point going to be, or where is this Miss Marvel series going to take us?
I
It
definitely
introduced us to a new
agree.
character, but at the same time, I wasn't just like, okay, what's gonna be next? Avengers, Young Avengers, Champions, like where's this going to? It's like, okay, no. And I think out of all the Marvel's Disney Plus series, I say this one was the most impactful because her post credit scene had the most power to it. It's like, okay, we're going to see this next chain of events happen. And it's like, okay, now that we see this was the big Joker. It was subtle yet effective. And I think that's one thing that Marvel sometimes struggles with. They always try to hit you with the big Joker in the post credit scenes, like in Eternals, it was Blade. It was like, hey, you got Blade for y'all ass. Boom, take it. But like with Miss Marvel, it's like, oh yeah, he's gonna throw. Oh yeah, she's a mutant. She's. Oh, I said it, but she's a mutant. Hopefully you've seen it already. So you know what's next. And I was like, okay, this was. I feel like that post credit, the first post credit scene, is what should always be. It shouldn't have to be over the top, over the head funny or over the head dramatic. Just like just a little bring off a little something. Like nothing too crazy. And that is definitely what happened. Um but yeah, Meta's camera is messing up again, so we gonna take him out. But we're back. So just moving on. I will say that one of the things that I truly liked about Miss Marvel that the other Disney Plus shows they have, but they kind of don't have, is that sense of community. Like in the Avengers series and in the other Marvel shows, it's like, oh, there's a community of heroes. But with Miss Marvel, it was like, hey, we have a community. You have a community that are for you, that are not only are for you, but they will protect you. Such in that last few scenes when the DOD was coming, not the DOD, whatever damage control was coming after them, and it took the citizens of Jersey City to surround Miss Marvel for her to help her get away. And even the police turned on damage control and was like, "Hey, this is our hero. We respect her more than what we respect you." And in that scene, it also came across like, "Oh, this like happens all the time," and not almost all the time in real life, but it's like there's always those authority figures who push their agenda, who push their beliefs, who push their culture on others forcibly, and the community doesn't like it. And they're like, "Oh no, we're going to set you up. You're not going to take us over. We're not going to do your bidding for you. If you want to get to the source, you have to get it through us."
Definitely. Sorry, this is new and my phone's dying, so this might keep happening. But I definitely want to hit on how much I enjoyed and loved building community. Like, if you know anything about Miss Marvel, you know that like her side characters are a big part of what makes her comic work. Like there's times when Kamala's not even on screen, not even there. Her side characters are just as important to her as she is to the story, just as important to the story as she is. So I definitely feel like they had to nail her side characters, and they had to nail like her brother and her brother's wife. They had to nail especially the mom and the father because they're so strong. And you had to nail Bruno, and I think they did a good job of doing that. Just from what we've seen, I definitely am excited to see what they do coming up with a second season of this show, to see just us explore and see like her family and her story even more. You're muted, Marcus. Still muted.
Dang, I just said a lot. I just said with Kamala having that community, she just doesn't need to have like that Avengers team. Like, yo, we're your family. It's like, no, she has her family of friends, her family, her real family, her own community behind her. And with those things, she doesn't necessarily need an Avengers team to hold her and caress her and show her the way, because she already has a strong moral standing. She already knows. She has a strong moral standing. She knows right from wrong. So she doesn't necessarily need to. She doesn't have that longing that other heroes have, like Captain America, the man out of time, or Iron Man, the man who's always wanted to be, or Thor, the man without a people, the man with people, then the man without people. than the man who had to watch his home be destroyed. So it's just like we're seeing a person who can stand on their own and say, hey, these are my morals, these are my beliefs. I'm gonna be the type of hero that you may not like, but it's the type of hero that I'm going to be. And she's even like that in the comics. Like the reason why she breaks away from Carol Danvers is you're going somewhere that my beliefs and my moral compasses can't go to. So I'm gonna start my own thing, and that's more centered to what I believe is what a hero should be doing. So, so we're going. I don't want to say hopefully we're going to see that, but I don't want to even say probably, but we're going to see more of just that. But now we talked about a little bit of it, but we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the big Joker, the big M word.
I saw the video. I don't know.
and so we take it a tad bit. Just give us some time here, people. Give us some time. It is a little bit late. But when I saw the video of Speed, I was like, fam, you could have died. Like, not only did he set it in his room, but he set it on the cotton sheets on his bed. And I was like...
And that room was mad flammable.
I was like, is he serious right now? And so when I don't know what, like, my thought process is, what was he thinking? And then secondly, it was like, where are the adults? Like, honestly. And I was like a teenager, and I set off a firework in my house. I wouldn't be alive. Like, I would not. I know I would not be here today. Like, I cannot set off. And then what was worse is that he kept his stream up while the firefighters was coming in, putting it out. So it's like, how bad do you want to go viral? Like, sometimes you just got to be cool to be cool. Like, if you're a content creator, don't be going crazy. Like, what's the point of getting money if you ain't got no house? And he's a kid. I think he's like 16 or 17. So it's like, okay, you do all of this for what? Like, you look crazy. And we're in the era where like everything's microwave and it's popcorn. But that's something he's always going to have to live in. Like, his family members for the rest of his life would say, remember when your dumbass almost set the house on fire trying to go viral streaming? Like, he's always going to have to live with that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Stay in your lane, people. It's not worth it.
But we're talking about the big M word. It's the M, the U, the T, the A, the N, the T. Mutant. So Bruno hit up Kamala. He was like, hey, yo, KK, guess what? I've been looking through your blood. And you know what I found out? There's something different with you. And she was like, what? What's different about me? And he said, you know what? Your genes got a mutation in them. And she was like, oh, really? And then stared at the camera. Not really. She did not stare at the camera. You notice if you watched it. But she said, oh, wow, or something. I don't even know if she responded. But we're here. Mutants. We're here. We getting them. I don't know if we're getting them. Let me be frank. Because all they said is mutations. I don't want to get overjoyed or thinking ahead of myself, because mutants are mutants and we can get all kinds of things. We may not even get the X-Men for another few years. Like, we don't know. They just said it.
Yeah, but like, how would you fit the X-Men into the MCU at this point?
Well, there's mutations, which means that there's gonna be more.
There's going to be more, but
that's a simple fix.
Would we get like the traditional X-Men, or do you think they start like Professor X is being born right now? because
You know what?
you
Go
can't
ahead.
really have the like historical connections because we're always gonna have the question of like, where was Professor X when Thanos came? Where was Magneto? Where were these people when all this was happening?
Here's the thing. You can still have those things because mutants are they are always the persecuted in society. Like even going back to the 1950s, not 1960s when they first came out, they were like the black sheep of society, and they could always say, "Hey, you guys had these heroes to do the job because when we tried to do it, you guys persecute us, you guys ridicule us, you try to kill us." And that first X-Men team with like Iceman, Beast, Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Angel, those are 5 white people. I'm gonna need, if they want to do that classic team, I'm gonna need at least one race switch. I'm gonna need a black Cyclops or a black Jean Grey or a Hispanic Beast or a Asian Angel, just something different because the X-Men, that first original X-Men team did not represent America. Well, let me rephrase that. It did represent America at that time, but that second team, that Chris Claremont team with like Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, that was more reflective of the times that we're in. And so my goal is not my goal, but like I want to see some diversity. Like don't give me that original X-Men from the 2000s movie and it was just all white people. Like, come on, man. Like that's
Well,
literally not the world we live in.
that's
Like we don't live
also
in a world like that. Like we
that,
don't live like I can't like I don't know about you, Morgan, but like I can't go out of my house and not see a black person.
well, I don't know. But for me, that doesn't represent like you talk about the original team. That's not a team that's going to be oppressed or hated. Like as much as they're like the mutants are hated, I'm like no one had a problem when Iron Man dropped with his suit. No one had a problem when Scarlet Witch walked up with her powers or speedsters. That's
But
not a
they
group,
did. See, go ahead.
but like that's not a group that's going to become or be seen as a threat, especially in the Marvel we have now with like Spider-Man and Thor. Like just some random white kid waking up with powers, they're just like cool, new
No,
hero drop.
but you're jumping. I don't want to say you're jumping ahead, but like you got to think about it in the grand scheme of things. Like, okay, how did you get your powers? Like, they don't know how Spider-Man's powers manifested. They don't know how Thor's powers manifested. They just know he's a god, and so they know who Iron Man is. They know who Captain America is. They know who Black Panther is. A kid waking up one day with powers, they're gonna send him to damage control or shield or somewhere like, hey, check this kid out. And so when those type of people start popping up more and more, and it's like, hey, how did you get your powers? I don't know. I just had them. It's like, okay, even in the comics, they have been persecuted for having those powers. And even then, they always cheer like the Avengers and all of them, but it was the X-Men and not X-Men, it was mutants being persecuted for having powers that way.
For me, I couldn't believe that they would like treat these people differently just because they have powers when there's already a bunch of people running around with powers. Like
Well,
if you got a problem with Kamala having a problem having powers in Jersey, why aren't you also going after Spider-Man or Doctor Strange or any other person walking around here with powers?
huh, well, huh, we'll see. That's all I got to say to that. We'll see. But overall, back to Miss Marvel. Just closing thoughts. What would you give it?
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. I would give it a 8.5 out of 10. Just because of the CGI. That's always going to be my knock on Marvel at this point. 15 years in the game, and y'all, this is the production that y'all give me. I'm gonna need more than that. Thank you for listening to us. If you're not following, follow us both on social media at Flow My Hero, and Metro Meta 26. Make sure you're following the brand at 26 and Glencoe Media Network. We're on everywhere: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that. And next up is She-Hulk, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
She-Hulk, we will be back for that. We have another few projects in the pipeline coming up. We still have a few reviews that we are working on getting out to y'all this summer before Meta goes back to work and is back in the dog days. So we're still working. I just want to, once again, appreciate you guys for listening to us, for rocking with us. Thank you for your patience, and we're on this journey together. And if you like it, just continue to listen. Make sure you listen to our She-Hulk trailer review. And if you like the content, just go back. We have a lot of episodes you can choose from. That's it. And until next time, peace.
See ya.